Welcome to The Explainer. I'm absolutely thrilled to take you on a bit of a journey today. When you think about the heart, we almost always picture this mechanical pump, right? A big muscular organ just squeezing blood out to the rest of the body. But actually, beneath all that mechanical action lies something even more fascinating. It's this incredibly precise, entirely spontaneous electrical machine. So today we're focusing purely on the conducting system of the heart. We're going to literally trace the exact journey of a single electrical spark, right from the moment it's born all the way down to that powerful muscular contraction that keeps you alive. Okay, let's dive right into this.
Think about this for just a second. What exactly tells your heart to beat around 70 times a minute, every single minute of your entire life, without you ever having to consciously think about it? It's definitely not your brain sending a nerve signal for every single pump. Actually, the answer lies right there, within the heart itself. It has its very own built-in internal wiring network that's designed to initiate and perfectly coordinate every single heartbeat.
Now, what's actually super interesting here is the definition of this network itself. The conducting system of the heart is responsible for the initiation and conduction of cardiac impulses. But, and this is a big but, look closely at that little parenthetical note. It's made of specialized cardiac muscle fibers, not nervous tissue. It's so easy to just assume that an electrical grid inside the body would be made of nerves, right? But nature kind of went a different route here, uniquely modifying the myocardium, the heart muscle itself, to generate and carry these absolutely vital electrical signals.
Here we have the entire conducting system pathway at a glance. It's basically our roadmap for today. That spark starts high up in the top right chamber, the right atrium, and travels down through a very specific, narrow little corridor before rapidly fanning out into the thick lower chambers, the ventricles. So our goal in this explainer is to just follow this exact pathway, step by anatomical step, so we can really understand how it orchestrates a perfectly synchronized heartbeat.
Let's start at the very beginning of the journey. Section 1, the pacemaker, the SA node. Our journey kicks off at the Sinoatrial node, which is much more commonly known as the SA node, or sometimes the node of Keith Flack. It's essentially this small little horseshoe-shaped mass of specialized myocardial fibers. It's strategically situated right inside the wall of the right atrium, up in the upper part of the sulcus terminalis. Basically, it sits just below where the superior vena cava dumps all that deoxygenated blood back into the heart. And this tiny horseshoe? This is exactly where the magic happens. So why exactly is it so magical? Well, it all comes down to this number, 70. The SA node is the spontaneous source of the cardiac impulse. It's literally known as the pacemaker of the heart because completely on its own, it generates about 70 impulses every single minute. It basically acts as the metronome for your life, spontaneously initiating the contraction of the cardiac muscle to produce a heartbeat. And once that impulse fires off, it spreads incredibly rapidly across the muscle fibers of both the right and left atria, causing them to contract and push all that blood downwards. Now, the spark needs to travel down to the bottom chambers to trigger the main pump, but it runs into a massive physical roadblock, which brings us to Section 2, crossing the insulator.
This physical roadblock is what we call the skeleton of the heart. Now, this is the central support structure of the organ, and it's completely composed of dense fibrous tissue. There are these fibrous rings that actually form a figure of 8. They surround the atrioventricular orifices, which are basically the doorways between the top and bottom chambers, as well as the pulmonary and aortic roots. These rings are absolutely crucial because they provide a nice, rigid base for the heart muscle to actually contract against. Plus, they keep the heart's valves from stretching out and failing.
But, well, here is the catch. These fibrous rings physically separate the muscle fibers of the atria from the muscle fibers of the ventricles. And because it's fibrous tissue, it acts as a complete electrical insulator. There is absolutely zero muscular continuity between the top and bottom of the heart. So that spark that just fired across the atria, it hits this fibrous floor and just stops. It literally cannot cross.
So you're probably wondering, how on earth does the signal get through to the ventricles to actually keep us alive? Well, it requires a highly specialized escape route. To bypass that insulator, the spark has to follow a very exact path. From the SA node, it gets picked up by the AV node. Then it's funneled straight through the AV bundle of His. And finally, it's distributed by the Purkinje Fibers. Let's look a little closer at that crucial second step.
The atrioventricular node, or the AV node, is a bit smaller than the SA node, and it sits right down in the lower part of the atrial septum. Its main job is to pick up that cardiac impulse coming from the atria. But here's the brilliant part. It doesn't just pass it along immediately. It actually introduces a vital, microscopic delay in the conduction speed. We're talking about a 0.11-second pause. Why? Because this is a literal lifesaver. This tiny fraction of a second gives the atria just enough time to physically squeeze and completely empty their blood into the ventricles before the ventricles start their massive contraction. If the top and bottom contracted at the exact same time, the heart would just be pumping against itself.
Okay, so once that tiny 0.11-second pause is over, the spark is handed off to the atrioventricular bundle, better known as the bundle of His. Now, this bundle is the absolute, quote, only means of conducting impulses from the atria to the ventricles. Remember that fibrous skeleton blocking the way we just talked about? Well, the bundle of His is the sole electrical bridge crossing that huge divide. It literally penetrates right through the fibrous ring and runs along the membranous part of the interventricular septum, carrying all the electrical hopes of the heartbeat right along with it.
Once it's safely made it across the border and into the ventricles, the bundle splits into left and right branches. Now, there is a totally fascinating anatomical shortcut over on the right side. A really large part of the right branch actually hops onto something called the septomarginal trabeculum, or the moderator band. This is a thick, muscular ridge that bridges straight across the right ventricular cavity over to the anterior wall. It's basically an express highway. It allows the spark to reach the far side of the right ventricle incredibly fast, which, as it turns out, actually helps prevent the right ventricle from over-distending with blood.
And now we've made it to the grand finale of the spark's journey. Those left and right branches finally terminate into the Purkinje fibers. These highly specialized fibers rapidly spread the impulse subendocardially, which basically just means right under the inner lining, over the rest of the ventricular walls. The sequence here is super high stakes and perfectly timed. First up, the papillary muscles contract. This pulls tight on the chordae tendineae. You can think of them as the heart's parachute strings, which locks the tricuspid and bicuspid valves tightly shut so blood doesn't flow backward. Instantly after that, the thick main ventricular muscle contracts, blasting the blood out into your lungs and to the rest of your body. And boom, that is one complete successful heartbeat.
But what exactly happens when this delicate system faces some sort of disruption? Let's move right into Section 3, when the wiring fails.
Whenever the conducting system gets damaged or irritated, we start to see alterations in the rhythmic contraction of the heart. The clinical terminology for this is actually pretty straightforward. A rapid pulse is called tachycardia. On the flip side, a surprisingly slow pulse is bradycardia. And when the rhythm loses its steady beat entirely, well, we call that an irregular pulse, or arrhythmia. These are all basically red flags that the heart's electrical grid is experiencing some level of malfunction.
Now, one of the most severe malfunctions you can have is known as a bundle block. Remember how we kept emphasizing earlier that the bundle of His is the absolute only electrical bridge between the top and bottom of the heart? Well, if that specific little bundle gets severely damaged and fails to conduct impulses, you get what is called a complete bundle block. The result of that? Complete dissociation. The SA node just keeps the atria beating away at its own fast pace, while the ventricles, completely cut off from the signal, resort to beating at their own, much slower, totally unreliable intrinsic pace. Basically, the top and the bottom of the heart completely lose communication with each other.
So what is usually responsible for this kind of damage? Well, the conducting system needs oxygenated blood to survive, just like any other tissue in your body. The whole system is primarily supplied by the right coronary artery, and the most common cause of defective conduction, like that scary bundle block we just talked about, is atherosclerosis of these coronary arteries. When plaque builds up and narrows those arteries, it leads to a diminished blood supply. This effectively starves the specialized muscle fibers of the conducting system, causing them to misfire or even fail entirely.
It really is just truly remarkable when you step back and look at the whole picture. I mean, from the spontaneous spark in the SA node, to that brilliant 0.11-second delay at the AV node, the critical bridge straight through the cardiac skeleton, all the way down to the explosive finish in the Purkinje fibers. Seriously, how does a tiny, localized bundle of specialized muscle keep you alive every single second, flawlessly coordinating the pumping of gallons of blood every day without you ever once having to think about it? It is an absolute marvel of biological engineering. I really hope this explainer has given you a newfound appreciation for the incredible electrical machine beating inside your chest right now.